hello and welcome to She Matters. It's so lovely to have you with us, whether you're watching on a Tuesday or a Sunday or any other time. We're delighted that you've joined us. And joining you and me is the lovely Simone, and Nikki's here again.
I must have done a good job last time. You've invited me back.
You do. You're wonderful,
you.
Nikki.
We
Bless
wanted
you.
to stick you on the sofa. Tell everyone we've just kept you there for the whole week.
Yes,
Yes.
I haven't moved.
Yes, I've been at home in 5 days.
I'm hungry.
Bless you. Ah, well, it's lovely to have you with us,
you.
Nikki. It's always lovely to have you, Simone, as always. And Edith will be back. We love and miss you, Edith. And it's lovely, as I said, to have all of you with us. We talked last week about the going home, the homecoming of Felicity. And, you know, I feel that's a really appropriate programme. We're going to be talking about different ages today and how we learn from different ages. And, you know, we would love to hear from you. And I'm sorry, Simone was saying, somebody said, oh, you know, sometimes people write in and we don't read them out afterwards. And sometimes, as Simone was saying, we get so many, so we don't manage to read them out. But we do love to hear from you. So if you have an email, if you have a thought, please send them to us at info@revelationtv.com and put it for the attention of the She Matters team. And we'll read it out next week. So, different age groups. Do you mix? Let's start with that. Do you mix with different age groups, or do you tend to mix with your own age group? Go on. Either of you can start.
Well, do you know what? Most of my friends, I would say, are older actually, are quite a bit older.
Oh,
about
really?
15, 20 years older.
Okay.
I would say that's the main group that I mix with.
Okay.
I've got a few friends that are in my peer age, like yourself, Jackie.
I was going to say, I hope
Yes,
yeah.
you know, 30. Why are we laughing at that? Of course it's true. So I've got a few friends now that are kind of in my bracket. And so that's mainly, and it's nice when I get an opportunity to mix with some younger folk as well. Like yourself, you know. But I've got friends in different age brackets. That's never really fazed me.
Right. And of course you've got 4 children.
I have.
And so do you mix with younger people because of that?
Yeah, I do to a point. I think now that they'll only let you sort of mix in with their group, especially when it's your kids anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, right, that's enough. And I could get on really well with my kids' friends, but you know, it's your kids and they're like, okay, Mum, yeah, all right, that's enough. But, no, I like.
It's a sad day
like
when that
everyone.
happens. Yeah. What about you, Nikki? Do you mix with younger people, older people?
Well, the thing is, when I was in the UK, I had a group of friends and we were kind of all the same age. Now that I've come to Spain, we've got such a diverse age range of people in our friendship group. We have from like 19 to literally 40, there's such a wide range. And I think that's good because then you learn more from each other, more people have had different experiences and things. It makes me laugh. A couple of my friends, mainly the 19-year-old and the 21-year-old, they've said to me before, oh, when I was young. And I was like, when you were young, you're already young, and that makes me feel old. And then I'm like, wow. But yes, I do tend to get on better with people younger than me. I think I can be quite immature at times. I think my mentality just matches them a bit more than being mature. But yeah, so diverse at the moment, yeah.
So I find it very interesting, and I think the interesting thing, and because we have young Nikki on the programme, and you know, it feels so weird to say that to you because I often speak to you. I'm about to say, you know, and I just feel that we don't speak, you know, it's honour, you know, we just speak to each other. But as I say that, I fear you're going to be like saying, oh, yes, that's true, Jackie. There are so many benefits, I think, of the ages mixing. And especially in Christian groups, I think that's true.
Yeah. Well, I think we share our wisdom then, don't we?
Yeah.
We share our experiences, and I love being around. Do you mean younger in terms of someone's just got born again?
Well,
or do you mean younger in numerical age?
Well, do you know what? I think in both, really. I mean, I think that we learn from each other in both those ways. And, you know, I love to meet young Christians who have just come to know the Lord, because their excitement and their enthusiasm and everything, you know, is, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh. Whereas I think when we're older, we're like, you know, we've been through a few battlefields, and, you know, we've got a few scars, and, you know, and that's not a bad thing, you know, we've learned, but you forget, you know, it says in Psalm 58, restore to me the joy of my salvation. And sometimes I think as older Christians, we forget that joy of the salvation, where everything was new and the road ahead was, you know, full of possibilities, which of course it is. But the journey isn't, you know, it's a bit like getting married, isn't it? You know, you're so honeymoon stage, and then you get into it and the reality sets in. It's probably not a bit like getting married, but anyway, you know what I mean. But do you think that in churches we don't appreciate the blessings of the generations?
I think people used to more. That's what, just in my experience. I mean, I've been now born again for like 28 years, so I can really see a difference, you know, in how things have changed kind of across churches. So I think there's definitely more of a, okay, those are the church mothers that, you know, especially the church circle that I was in, there, it was very much, okay, you know, we need the church mothers to gather around. There was something about, you know, when they prayed and their wisdom and their experience, it makes such an impact, and are there to encourage, you know, the other young girls and stuff. And but I don't know. I don't know so much now. I think just the way society is now is very much, everybody's a lot of the time in their own world.
Yeah.
With selfies and whatever. I think it's very, you know, and we have to really kind of make an effort now and be intentional to be very community based and really reach out and connect. So I think that I think it was maybe more so. But I think people are looking for that again. So,
but you know, it is a biblical principle. If you look into the Bible, sorry, were you going to say that?
Yeah, no,
Go
I was
on.
just going to say that I think in Psalm 145 it talks about the older generation passing down to the younger generation God's glory and the actions that he's done through word of mouth. Like, we have that less these days because there's so much distraction for younger people, TVs and video games and their own friends and things. I think we've lost that emphasis on it being passed down through word of mouth. And I think it's so important for older Christians to pass on to younger Christians what the wisdom they have and the experiences they've gone through in their own testimonies, so that the young people can really relate, because it's real life, especially at the moment when the media are just bombarding them with so many different ideologies that are very secular and non-Christian. It's so important for younger Christians to have a foundation in the word, and I think they can get that from the older generation passing down their wisdom and their knowledge and what they've learned through the Bible as well, and kind of explaining it in a way that maybe the younger people would understand, because I think the Bible is such a complex book for a young person to just understand it themselves, that maybe they just need older people to explain it in a more real, tangible way.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great point. And of course it says, what does it say? It says, one generation will commend your works to another. And that is the way we do it, isn't it? By talking about our testimonies and what we've been through. And I love Psalm 145 because it is David telling us how amazing God is. And, you know, I think that we need to do that, don't we, in our everyday lives. And I also think in Titus, it says in Titus 2, 1-8, it says, but as for you, speak the things of sound doctrine. And it says, the older women likewise should be reverent in behaviour, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. And they should admonish the young women to love their husbands and love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. And likewise exhort the young men to be sober-minded. And, you know, even the Apostle Paul took along younger people along with him on his journey.
Yeah, well, it's that discipleship, isn't it? It's that discipling. And I think, I mean, obviously, you know, we're looking at sort of distinct ages, but even if you've been born again, there could be someone even that's around the same age as you that you can then disciple, because you're now older in the faith and are able to pass that on. So actually we all, in whatever situation we're in, we're always able to be that one that's able to pass something on. But I think, you know, there is something about when we sit and we listen to, it's like when I listen to my nan, I love listening to my nan's stories. And I love being able to hear what she's got to say. Oh, actually, hi Nan. My nan normally watches the programme. She loves She Matters.
Hi, Nan. Hi.
She's lovely. So I might phone her after. But yeah, I've just really enjoyed. We've had so many great conversations, and she's, you know, told me about life, but also because we are believers, we've been able to share about Jesus, and she's been able to share, you know, her wisdom, but also she's listened to me as well. So actually there's been such a really good relationship of us, you know, doing this and having a friendship and actually being able to share and and encourage one another, which has just been, I'm just so blessed to be able to have that, you know, with my nan as an older woman. And I think we do need to pay more attention to that. I don't think we value kind of older people in the same way. There's not necessarily that kind of respect. We can Google lots of things now, can't we? Whereas you couldn't do that before. You'd have to ask someone, what was it like then? What was this? But like what Nikki was saying, when you've got that, when you can have that hands-on and someone really telling you the details, and you get that feeling, that atmosphere, that impacts you. And it goes back to like our programme last week, isn't it? Words.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the power of words. So when you hear, I think, your own parent, grandparent, or someone that is an influence in your life saying those things, it imprints you in a more powerful way. It you know, it impresses on you. As parents, we're our kids' first teachers after God. So when you hear your parent, I think that's one of the things, even, you know, this topic is not about puberty, but using the example of generational things, you know, when you hear your friends say something in the playground, you know, that has an impact on you. But when you hear your parents say it, that stays with you more. You trust more what your parent will say. And it has more of a longer lasting effect.
Have you found though, as a parent, obviously I'm not a parent yet, but is there normally a phase that I would imagine teenagers go through where they get to a point where they don't necessarily listen to what their parents are saying or take on board, because they see it more as you're sort of telling them what to do type thing? So they're more likely to either listen to people sort of their own age or sort of people that aren't their parents but older, because even if you are telling them God's word, sometimes they might take it as, oh, Mum's just telling me what to do again, do you know what I mean, rather than...
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's important that we have so many different people in our lives, because they might think, oh, Mum's this, but like with my niece and nephew, I don't actually know whether this is true, but I do really pray it is that my niece will confide in me things that she won't tell her mum, and I think she sees me as a different voice into her life, and I hope she does. I don't mean a more reliable, but just a different voice. More reliable is completely wrong. Just not a mother who's telling her things for a reason, and I think that's important. But I agree with you, but I think that one thing I really want to emphasise is that, you know, if you're older, which I think there are a lot of people that are older that think, actually, you know, my life's over and I've got no value. Your value is massive, you know, huge, and I really so encourage you to befriend younger people in your area that you might not think need you, but they really need you, because they need a wise voice. Go on.
Exactly. No, you just made me think of, there's something called a people library, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
So people, instead of getting a book out, people can have a person that comes and sits, and they start to talk about a topic or talk about their life, and that is how. So you could have a one-to-one. So it's people libraries, I think, are getting set up all over the place. That people are making themselves available, and then they just have a talk, either one-to-one or in a group, and so, you know, people are listening, because it's like what you said, it's life experiences, and it's what we don't really have anymore because of the media, which is good on one sense, but it's also broken down that relational, that, you know, where things will be passed down orally, isn't it? And things are not written. It's like, you know, your gran or your great gran would have a recipe and would have shown you your gran, your mum, and then you. It's never even written down. It's just we've been shown, or this is what has been said, and it's so, and that's happened in cultures all around the world, and and stuff. And so I think, yeah, our generation is now kind of lacks that, but people are aware that that is missing and are hungry for that connection, because you can't beat, you know, human connection and communication, because it's the way that God made us.
Would you go out of your way to seek out an older person? I wasn't pointing at Simone.
Well, the pillow.
But would you? I mean, if you were looking for advice on something, you know, in your Christian world, would you, in your Christian walk, which I assume is your walk, your everyday walk, would you? Okay, so here's a question: if you were going to watch a YouTube thing or a devotional, as you were saying, would you be more likely to watch a younger person or somebody a bit older? Would you? Yes.
I think it depends on what the subject was, because I think obviously if it's something that at my age that I'm struggling with, that I'd want to get a point of view of someone sort of my own age. But if I needed wisdom or something that maybe I need to think differently to how I'm thinking now, maybe I'd go to someone older. Like I mentioned on the last programme, I'm always watching Joyce Meyer. But also I know on YouTube, Lauren Daigle, she's a Christian singer. She does lots of videos that young people can relate to as well. So I think it depends what subject you're going for. I think when you ask me, would I seek out an older person? At the age that I am now, I would probably go to my parents, just because when I grew up, I never really had an older Christian mentor as such. I grew up with Christian parents. My dad was even the youth leader, so I didn't have a different person to go to as such. So I've kind of always just gone to my parents if I need godly wisdom. But I think it is important to have relationships with older people, and I think it's more when people have a connection with that person, like you're talking about your grandma and things. When you have that close bond with someone, you take more what they say. I think if it was just sort of some random older person that you were talking to, you might not quite relate to what they're saying and take their wisdom, because you're like, who are you? Why should I trust you? Do you know what I mean? Type thing. But that bond, I think, is important.
And in churches now, of course, we have singles and Sunday school and youth and whatever. Do you think that there should be a mixed group?
Oh, that's interesting. I think, I think there needs to be balance. So I think that there should be things that, like, even going back to what Nikki's saying, that, you know, she's going to go to her peers, or we're going to go to our peers if there's something that we feel that is relatable on that level. But then if I need to go to something for this, then I'll go to that. So I think we need to have balance. We need to have something where people can relate to us, where we feel that we can, you know, someone understands us and relates to what we're going through. And that's why we have those specific groups, you know. But then you do mix together, because then you get that balanced view, and you get those differences, and it helps you, to have a balance. But I think even like what you said about YouTubers, there's one YouTuber that I've been watching recently, and she's younger than me. I'd say she's about 10, maybe 15 years younger than me, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of her age, but she's definitely younger. And I've been listening to what she's got to say, and it's been great. There's things that I've been, you know, watched the topics she's been talking about, because to me they're on point. And I mean, she's a Christian, and so what she bases things on is the word, but she talks about so much life experience, and I'm like, wow, that's a really good perspective. So that's given me a different perspective, you know, and that is why I think we've got to be open.
And I don't know whether that is something that the older generation aren't so open, but perhaps have learned to be more open, you know, as they've got older. We were talking about openness this morning, weren't we? And we were talking about the power of just being open about what's going on in our lives and having people to talk to. And I think that is a really powerful thing to do. But if you speak to my mum, she would say, well, in the war, we just all got on with it. All this counselling nonsense. That's just my mum. She's not a Christian. Whereas I think that now we do realise the value of talking about things and sharing things, and, you know, being open, and there's real value in that. One of the reasons that I wanted to talk about habits, and we are going to start some new habits as we go into Christmas, and one of the habits that I really encourage all of us to do, which is coming up to the Christmas period, is that if we all read one chapter of Luke every day, then by the time Christmas comes around, you'll have read the whole of the book of Luke, and you will have been taken through the Christmas story. So I thought that there was something that we could do as a She Matters programme. And so that's a habit that I encourage you to adopt, and I certainly will be adopting. And I think that when I was really encouraging us all to share our habits is that we have different habits. I found it so interesting that yours was worship music and you know, that sort of starts the day. If I asked you to share another one, would it be too far?
Yes, because you put me on the spot.
But one, go on.
Acknowledging God's presence every day, I think is so important.
That's
I think
great.
it's being a Christian is living the everyday with God. It's not about just going to church on a Sunday or just having a 5-minute prayer. It's in all the little mundane things that you do, God is still interested in that. He's created you, He's created your life, and He wants to be in every part of your life. So acknowledging God's presence is definitely a habit, a good habit that I do every day. As I say, worship music in the morning, but then throughout the day, it's not just a case of, oh, God, you're there in the morning, and then you're forgetting the rest of the day. He's there all the time.
Brilliant.
So,
That's great. I think that's really important.
Oh, yeah, that's encouraged me. Love, thank
Oh,
you.
good.
Go on. Are you
it
sharing?
was just my, just going for a walk, really. Yeah, that's my on a practical. But I was talking to someone about this yesterday about, you know, how everything links together, and we were talking about balance.
Yeah.
And you know, when you start to, and how that builds confidence when we take action to do things, and we've made a decision and followed it through. That actually, builds that confidence in us, and builds value.
Yeah.
So one of the things for me is walking.
Yeah.
Because that's physical, and then that releases endorphins, and you can pray. And, it's all great. Yeah.
Oh, I'm with you. Going for a walk, I think, is a great thing to do.
Or
and I think,
exercise or whatever.
you know, I think our dear Felicity would agree with that, and it's also in so many of the newspapers and things. So going for a walk is a great one, and I know our dear Pastor Yemi goes on a prayer walk every day. So I think that is a great one. And oh goodness, if only we could ask Felicity about what her most important habits were, and loving life. I think loving God. I wanted to share an email from Norma, and she sent in an email to talk about one of her habits. I don't know how old Norma is, nor will I ask her, but I think she's a bit older than we are. So I just think that it's so important for us at all ages to share our habits. It says, "Hi ladies, I have an old phone which I set to ring every morning. It rings with the song, 'The Battle Belongs to the Lord.' When that alarm goes off, I immediately say, 'Good morning, Yeshua. I love you, have a good day,' and I've done it for years. If for some reason I don't hear the phone, I still forget to say it, and often it can be a night time before I remember." How important is that?
Wow.
One morning I was thinking, should I really be saying this every morning? And I was sitting on the edge of the bed, a beautiful voice, a real voice, there was no mistaking it was Yeshua, said in my right ear, "And the same to you, Norma. I have never questioned this again." Oh, isn't that lovely? So what can we do to remind ourselves to love different people of different ages and the wisdom that they have?
I think one of the things, even saying it today on the programme, is actually giving them a call.
Yes.
So, like, when I leave here now and go home, I'm going to give my nan a call and have a chat, which I don't do enough, and I need to do that more. So I did catch a glimpse of her when I went to the UK a month ago, so that was nice. But I do enjoy our chat, so that's what I'm going to do. So I think calling also is reaching out, and I think sometimes what people have said when they get older as well is that they can just be like forgotten. It's like you become invisible, which is really sad.
It is true.
It's like, so how do you not make someone feel that way? It's like, okay, let me be intentional. Let me remember you.
Yeah.
Yes, I think calling.
Oh, that's so good. Nikki?
I was just thinking that the people library is a good idea. I think just to reach out, kind of what you were saying though, but just reaching out to other people and those that might be feeling lonely, and just give them a call. But I have a question for you guys, because I'm interested. We've talked a lot about how the older can influence the younger and inspire the younger, but how do younger generations influence the older generation? How do you feel you've been influenced by a younger person in your life?
I think that their enthusiasm, my gosh, like we're really old. But you know, I do think that as you speak to somebody younger, that, you know, at your age, you probably do have a lot more energy. My God, but it's true. And I do think, oh, you're falling asleep, Simone. So I do think it's really, and also I think that people have a much, you know, one can get a bit jaded. And so that when you speak to a younger person and they have hope and things, which we all have, but sometimes you can get a bit tired. So, but we'd love to hear from you. You know, would you like to answer Nikki's question? Do you enjoy speaking to younger people? And would you like to speak more to younger people? We'd really love to hear from you. And one thing that my mum really has taught me, because I live with my mum at the moment, who's a younger person, is stop texting. Why doesn't anybody phone each other anymore?
Oh, hello, sorry, I am a phone person. I was saying to someone the other day, do you know what, I can't take the texting. It just really gets on my nerves.
Really?
Yeah, honestly. I can do it for a minute, but if we're going to have a conversation, unless you're right in the middle of something and you cannot talk, I'm like, if you can talk, why are you not going to talk? What is going, hi, and holding the phone there instead of there?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a different connection.
Nikki?
That's good. Well, that is a good point that you make, because I was like, I'm a texter. Or these days you do voice messages, which is basically being on the phone anyway. So I don't know why we don't.
Well, no. Well, anyway, we'll come back to that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm the voice note queen, aren't I?
You are a bit of a voice note queen.
Yeah.
So that is something that I've learned from my mum. Call each other, stop texting. And I'm sure that if you are an older person out there that can't do all the modern technology, you're also saying yes. And I think that there are so many people. My mum's church can't meet at the moment. And he said, oh, but we're meeting on Zoom. And my mum said, I don't want to do Zoom. I don't want to meet somebody. You know, over a computer screen, and it's just so much. So please share those thoughts with us. You are valuable. What you have to say is valuable. You know, God put us on this earth so that we could be together, that we could iron sharpen each other and all learn from each other. So if you've got a tip, a habit, something you'd like to say to the younger or older generation, or some advice to give us about living life as a community, as it says in Titus, share with one another. One generation will commend his works to another. We've got 30 seconds. Have you got something you can say? Why don't you close the show in 30 seconds?
Oh, okay. Wow. No pressure. Expecting that. Yeah, no, I was just saying about when you... I love young people because they know about social media. If I need social media help, I look for someone under 30 or who I think is under 30 because then they can help me. But it's been so lovely to just be with you all again. And let's get to talking, let's get to communicating, let's get to reaching out to one another, whatever generation. See you soon. Bye.